Hi, how you doing? Thank you for listening again to our YouTube channel. As I said, we're going to talk about and touch various subjects, right? So today we're going to talk about something different. I like to mix it up every week and sometimes something completely different, right? Throughout the years, I've had a lot of people tell me like, well, you're different in that how can you have so many different types of businesses, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, different fields, right? Like you were in the accounting field, you were in the entertainment field with sports, and then also, restaurant field. It's completely different. A lot of people can't like transition that and do that. And sometimes it is difficult. It's not easy to be in completely different fields. But one of the ways, something that you learn, right? And my mentor taught me, and I was fortunate enough to speak with him as well last week. He's been a mentor for over 23 years, and he's a billionaire, so he knows a whole heck of a lot more than myself. Is protecting yourself, right? That is very important because what we always have to remember at the end of the day is like when you wake up, you look in the mirror, who's there? You. So who's ultimately responsible for like your actions? You, right? So it comes back to us. So it's always a matter of like protecting yourself, right? And there's nothing wrong with that if you think about it. At the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? You hop in your car, you put on your seatbelts to protect yourself from, God forbid, if you're in an accident, right? So let's take that over to any business. Any business, no matter what type it is. We talked in a prior video that you're gonna have like problems come and problems go, right? So you gotta be prepared for these problems. Well, at the end of the day, it being that you're responsible for whatever it may be, first of all, it's gonna be the bills, contracts, labors, and all these, right? So when I say protect yourself, it means once you know all the problems that are there, you figure out how to protect yourself from anything that could possibly go wrong, right? Now, in saying that, protecting yourself, you have to also remember in business, it is smart to always have a written contract, right? It's always better. Written, signed, notarized, preferably with your lawyers in lawyers' offices. And then it's a legal binding contract, and then there also are verbal contracts, right? And verbal contracts are actually legal binding contracts as well. So two types of contract, written and verbal. And both are legal binding contracts. Naturally, listen to this video, I don't give legal advice, I'm not a lawyer, but these are contracts, right? So why do we do contracts? So naturally, if me and you have a verbal contract, it's our word, right? So let's say that down the road, say you have a business partner and then you have issues, and you don't have a written contract. Well, down the road, you say, well, we had this verbal contract. Well, yes, it's a legal binding contract, but the problem arises when, say, the person doesn't stand up, do what he's supposed to do, right? And he says, well, I didn't say that, or vice versa, right? Or you don't agree with what they said that you said. So a little risky in that sense, because in forms of protecting yourself, if you have a history of whatever it said was going to be done and was being done, it's fine, but it opens up a lot of like kind of a can of worms as well, and some legal issues in that your word against that person's word, right? Even though it is a legal binding contract, but you have to prove that in court. Now let's switch over to therefore what written is so much better, because written, naturally you have it in writing, you have it signed, have it notarized, and it's another form to protect yourself, but on a higher level, right? So you have to always remember that when you go into business, naturally, you always want to follow the laws, and you're forming things how you're supposed to form them, first of all with the state in which you reside, then the federal government, you're going to get an EIN, then with the county that you're in, you're going to get the proper licenses. So you have to comply to each one of these things, right? Now that's also, you do that, it's the same thing, you're protecting yourself, because and then also depending if it's construction or other certain fields, they may require OSHA certifications and certain things, right? So you have to be aware. When you're aware of these, a part of that protecting yourself, which is the way it should be, right? So naturally, you're gonna have all your contract, you're gonna have all your licenses in order, whether on the state level, on the county level. Then you should also have, like in this example of a construction company, you should have your OSHA meetings. You make sure you have everyone did their training, everyone knows what they're supposed to do, their safety gear, their hard hat, their steel-toe shoes. And why do we do this? First of all, because that's what we're supposed to do and be in compliance with the laws that are there. And second of all, if they come, we're like, here we go. You see our employees are trained, they're properly, and then at the same time, believe it or not, I've had clients throughout the years that You know, some workers didn't comply with certain things. Say they were out partying and didn't have a harness and they fell and, you know, got really hurt, right? Ended up in the hospital. And that comes back to then, bam, comes back to the business owner. So part of you protecting yourself is obeying each county, state, and regulation, right? And having all your training and stuff up to date. So when they come and be like, hey, there was this accident, you know, where your people trained. Yes, you have your proper, you know, everything you need. Do you have proper identification? Do you have proper training that they signed off on? Do you have all this? Yes, 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 yes. So always remember that. And then in reference to partnership with people as well, like people do change, right? No relationship, I've seen tons, like hundreds and, you know, hundreds throughout the years, partnerships with people. And sometimes they're successful, right? And they work, and sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes, you know, people change as time goes on, sometimes people don't. Well, in saying that, knowing that this is a possibility of happening, from the gate, you know, have a written contract, right? So you protect both parties, whether you're best friends, whether you're family. That way you guys protect yourself in that sense. Now, another way too, like in businesses as well, let's switch it up and talk about, like, I've had I know a friend of mine had a convenience store for many years, and I remember I had one time had an office next to them. One day I get knocking on my door, and I'm like, huh? Police, and they, can we look at your camera? And you know, the night before something had happened, you know, they had robbed somebody and come and said, well, sure, come on in, look at it. So another way, like legally protecting yourself in your businesses, if you have a restaurant, if you have a convenience store, is also to have cameras, right? You can have cameras outside, and then also legally put a sign. If you do record as well, you should legally put a sign outside that says you're being, you know, 24-hour surveillance, you're being recorded to notify them they are. And if you're actually recording as well, have a sign. And if you have that sign, you know, let them know that they're being, you know, videoed that time, and then also monitored as well, if it can also hear the voice as well, just to notice to let them know. And that's another way of protecting yourself. So in every type of business that you have are certain levels of protection, right? So it's a matter of you of knowing, like going back to the video we did a long time ago, what can go wrong and what can, you know, what could possibly go wrong, the pros and cons of each thing. And once you know that of each business, because every field is different, protect yourself. Okay, so sit back and look and say, okay, well, in construction, this could go wrong. A restaurant, this could go wrong, and this can go wrong. And set up parameters so that doesn't happen. And God forbid it does happen, you already have all your ducks in a row. Okay? And just keeping your word. Like nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of people don't keep their word, right? A lot of times people say something and then life changes, or, you know, economic situation changes, and then they switch up. So it's always good to, number one, keep your word and be ethical. But number two is have a written contract, because people do change. I've seen several people that end up doing really good and it took off more than they thought, and they're like, oh shoot, they changed, you know? But you know, no matter what, nobody's perfect, but whether it's with family, so always remember, whether it's with family, whether it's your best friend, always protect yourself, because at the end of the day, we are responsible for our actions, right? So no matter whatever it may be, okay? And then, so you want to make sure that you're complying, you're doing everything you're supposed to. If you don't know what you're supposed to do, then get with somebody in your area, whether it be a lawyer for your contracts, or get with a business consultant as well in your area, because every state is different. Lawyer could definitely direct you as far as what the regulations are, because regulations are different in certain states as well. So recommend getting, be like, you know, what can go wrong, right? Now naturally, if you're in a field that you've been in for years, you're gonna know, you know, the pros and cons of each one, and you're gonna know. But sometimes it is good, like getting insight and asking an attorney, hey, how can I, you know, we're going to this partnership, how can we, you know, protect both of us? You know, naturally, when especially starting a new venture, and a thought is to like make this successful, it's always good to start off on the right track, you know. And there's absolutely, like I had somebody tell me one day, like, oh, well, you know, you always like, you know, protect yourself, and like, make sure you, I'm like, what do you mean, like, win, right? And I'm like, I do not always win, you know. Unfortunately, many times I have business that fail, many times, you know, you have something that you think is gonna work and it doesn't work, and sometimes you have to step back and look at it and be like, okay, should know more. or no more. So it's not about always winning, but it's a matter of setting up, ways to protect yourself so that when things do go wrong, that you can make a decision and get out of it, or have everything in a row to ultimately, again, protect yourself, right? So the moral of the story for today is protect yourself, right? I said that word a lot, those two words. So there's many ways to do it. And as I said, I've been in business for many years on all different kinds of businesses, different types of businesses. So naturally I have some insight to each one of these subjects, but it's always good to consult your attorney, consult your accountant, financial advisor for whether it's anything, because every field is different. But at the end game is the same thing. You have a plan, you want to be successful, and if you are successful, you want to make sure that, God forbid, anything goes wrong, you have everything to protect yourself. Insurance, why do we get insurance? The same reason. Liability, workers' comp. To, God forbid, something happens to somebody, we're good. But it all goes back ultimately to protect yourself. Sometimes people are scared to say that because it sounds like I'm just thinking about myself. But no, you're actually thinking about other people, So thank you guys again for listening in. Next week we're going to talk about a whole nother subject as well. So I appreciate your time and thank you for all the messages and like, hey, what are you doing? Make sure we get these videos coming out. So thanks so much and have a great day.